Hi everyone, it's Robin. I have a project to share with you on behalf of the Wild Orchid Crafts YouTube design team, the Wild Bunch. I am showing you how I created a tag using the Butterfly Garden paper collection by Pink Paisley. So I hope you enjoy this video, and thanks for watching. Okay, so I'm using the Tag and Book Plates die by Tim Holtz, and I have covered my chipboard with the Butterfly Garden paper by Pink Paisley, one of my favorites. In this project I'm using a lot of scraps, so I'm not covering the chipboard for the book plate or the reinforcers because I'm going to be painting those later on, and I'm just going to run that through my Big Shot. And this is using medium weight chipboard, and it seems to go through pretty well for most dies, and this one, no trouble at all. So now I'm just going to get my stuff ready. I'm using the light buttermilk acrylic paint to paint the book plate as well as the reinforcers, and I'll be using some other products on it later, but this is just to get it started so it has time to dry while I'm working on the tag. And I'm just moving them over so that the chipboard doesn't stick to the paint when it dries. Set that aside, and now I'm just going to ink up my tag, and I'm using Vintage Photo Distress ink, as well as in a minute I'll add a little bit of the tea dye Distress ink. Just use my sponge applicator. Okay, and now I'm spraying it with a homemade shimmer paint mist and setting that aside to dry. It's using alcohol, so it should dry quick. And here I'm just using my scraps, punching it out with a scallop oval punch, using a rub-on. This is a Chit Chat rub-on. I think it's retired from Stampin' Up. The one I'm using says, "You are so beautiful," and it's a little wide, so I'm going to go ahead and I cut that in half. I'm just making sure placement's right with my book plate before I adhere it down onto my paper. And I like to use my bone folder when I'm attaching the rub-ons. It comes with a popsicle stick, but I like to use my rub-on in most cases. So I'm just going to ink around the edges with the Vintage Photo Distress ink, and now I'm going to add some Lindy's, one of the daubers. It's I think it's Azure Aster Blue. Just to kind of soften that up. There's a lot of blue in the paper, as well as add some of the Antique Gold Rub and Buff onto the book plate, as well as the reinforcers, just to make them a little more vintage, a little more shabby. And then I'm going to add some of the small Moonstone brads from Wild Orchid Crafts into the holes for the book plate, and then I'll just later use glue to attach it to the tag. Okay, so just going to use some Scotch Quick Dry to put the book plate onto the scrap paper that I added the rub onto. Okay. And now I'm just going to add some of my favorite Guy Pure lace onto the tag, as well as some flat back peachy colored pearls from my stash. This is just a creative paper clay mold that I made and then painted and added some rub and buff to. Now I'm just going to create a pocket for the back using some lace that I have from my stash, and that's just going to hold the little note that I have to give to the person that I gave this tag to. And just making sure I have enough space. And I'm going to hot glue that and tuck it under so it looks finished on the edges. And just make sure that it fits okay. I'm going to add that tab to it later too. Okay, so now I'm just going to try and figure out what seam binding color I want to use. I'm going to add it to the top, and I like the darker pink better. And so just trying to figure out all the different supplies I'm using. I love those 40mm trellis roses. They're so pretty. Okay, so here I've decided that I'm using the darker pink, and I'm just going to attach that to the top. And I apologize, I've gone off screen here, and I will for quite a bit of the rest of the tag, but I was just working along and wasn't really paying attention, so I'll be more careful about that next time. So I'm just adding the seam binding to the top of the hole there, and just going to tie a bow. And I was going to crinkle it, but I thought, you know, no, I'm just going to leave it as is. So again, I apologize that I'm off screen here. And I'm just going to snip the ends. And then I'm going to add some seam binding to the bottom as well. Just going to wrap it around the front, flip it over, and then add it to the back as well. Then I have some linen thread or some real thin jute string. I'm just going to use to tie it there in a bow, just to add another layer and a different texture. And that's from Stampin' Up! As well. Just snipping my ends. And I'm still getting my supplies out that I'm using. So just figuring out placement, have a couple a feather, and then so I'm just going to attach the lace there, just making sure everything's lined up the way I want it. I love that lace. This one is in the white. Okay, now I'm just going to add the flat back pearls. Then I can start layering my flowers and other things once those are down. Okay, and now I'm just going to get some of the rose leaves out. And skeleton leaves, those are the natural. Snipping off the stems for the rose leaves. Excuse me. Again, just figuring out placement, figuring out where I want everything. I'm going to add a little bit of Rub and Buff to the leaves, the white part, just to soften those up a little. Make them match more with the tag. And I decided not to use the blue. I thought I would because there's so much blue in the paper, but it just wasn't doing it. So I switched to the green. And these are the 20mm or 25mm open roses in the mixed green tones. I also have some sweetheart blossoms there. And I'm just going to glue that book plate down with some hot glue. I got a little bit of hot glue on the seam binding, so I just decided to snip the end off that again. Okay, gluing down my skeleton leaves, and then the feather. This is one of the larger rose leaves. I really like them. Okay, and then the 40mm trellis rose. I'm just going to tuck that little lock down in there and then start layering the flowers. I love those glue strings. I'm picking those off quite a bit during the tag process. Okay, again, I apologize if this is off screen. I'm just gluing everything down. I'll flip it around in just a minute. This is the first voiceover video that I've done, so I hope you guys enjoy it. But it was just such a long tag. I think it was like an hour and a half that I spent on it by the time I, get up and grab different supplies and stuff. So pretty good. I got it down to about 12 minutes. So I pretty much had to do the voiceover. So I'm just adding some of the 5mm closed rose buds. And then you can see that I added the sweetheart blossoms up to the top of the book plate. To the right there. And snipping off the stems. I'll curl them later. I do that sometimes, just snip them off. That way it's easier to tuck them in, and then I can add the coils later wherever I want them, or wherever needs a little spot filled in. And I just use a metal file that broke. I've just gotten in the habit of using that for curling the stems. I'm just tucking them in there, the little rosebuds. They just add a little something just to fill in space and nice layered look. Okay, and these are the 15mm open roses in the aqua. Getting those glue strings again. And the sweetheart blossoms. Okay. Tucking in the 5mm closed rosebuds behind the sweetheart blossoms there. And then I'll be really close to finishing off the tag. I'll have close-up photos at the end of the video too. Okay, just adding a couple more rosebuds and we're just about done. So it was a really, really fun tag, and I think just that's one of my favorite paper collections. So just to me, it was some of all of my favorites. My favorite lace and flowers paper collection, and then of course the pretty seam binding. I'm just filling in here with some of the coiled stems. And I decided in a minute here I'm going to add a couple other metal embellishments. There's a little butterfly charm, and then one of the beautiful filigree butterflies from Wild Orchid Crafts. Okay, just adding that to the jump ring. And then snipping the little ends there. And I'm going to add some flat back pearls to the center of the butterfly. They're just 3mm. And there's the finished tag. Really pretty. Love the colors. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing this tag, and I will have the link to all of the Wild Orchid Crafts products in the information bar down below with the links. And thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.